Our next speaker, Gerald Anthony Neal, is an American politician who has served as a member of the Kentucky Senate since 1989. He has been the longest serving member of the Senate since the resignation of David Williams in 2012. Gerald received a Juris Doctorate in 1972 from Brandeis School of Law, University of Louisville, and was later named the 2006 Distinguished Alumni Law Fellow. He pursued graduate studies in political science at the University of Michigan, yay, and later returned to Kentucky to begin his legal career. Gerald is the minority whip of the Democratic Party, meaning in the House of Representatives, or in the Senate, excuse me, oh my God, sorry. Meaning that he is their leader in the Senate. Everybody, please give a warm welcome to Gerald Neal.
Hello. You know, every time I step out into another community, I never know what to expect. It's rare I get a standing ovation. I want to thank you for that. Let me just tell you, first of all, if I can make one correction, I'm not the minority whip.
Oh.
I'm the minority floor leader.
Oh.
That makes me the leader. But we work as a team. So it really doesn't make any difference, those titles, because they're gonna push me out there anyway, because they're doing something else. Derby's coming to Louisville, right? So, but I have to tell you that I was really excited about coming here for a number of reasons. One good reason is a friend of mine named Rocky Atkins. Y'all know that guy? Now, I spoke to Rocky yesterday and today, and we're gonna be together tomorrow in Louisville. And we're together a lot because me and Rocky go way back, as you would imagine. You know his leadership skills and positions he's held, and boy, let me tell you, I've learned as much as I can learn about East Kentucky from Rocky Atkins. And Ashland as well. But you know, I came in here, I told my friend that was my assistant who drove me here today, that, you know, I've been here before, and I think I've spoken here before, but it was like 30 some odd years ago. It was a long time ago. It looks different. Is there a reason it looks different? There's been a face over or something, right? My goodness, I looked around, I awed, and I forgot why I came here. I wanted to see what was going on. I said, my goodness, look at Ashland. And then they brought into consideration of what's happening across Kentucky, and that's one of the reasons I'm excited to be here. In fact, I'm excited to go all across Kentucky, and I do that. And I just about accept, if my schedule permits, any invitation to be anywhere. So I want to thank you. I want to thank the Board County Democratic Party. Now, how many of you are registered members? No, don't tell me. I'm not going to put you on the spot. But let me tell you, I'm very excited about being here, and I thought about what would I talk about here in Ashland. So I started poking around to sort of figure out, you know, what's going on in Ashland? What's important to people in Ashland? And then I began to think that, you know, what's important to people in Ashland is like what's important to people across the Commonwealth. The more I dug into it, the more it became the same. In fact, I've traveled some places in the world and I asked that question. I wonder what's important to the people here. And you know what I found out? What's important to people out in the world is what's important here in the United States of America. In fact, I found out how integrated the world was from traveling. It's amazing. And you run into people that don't speak the same language, but yet they speak the same language. And they want the same thing. They may look different, but after a while you begin to invite and adopt their courtesies that they extend, And after a while, you feel right at home. Only thing you have to do is give yourself a chance. You have to open yourself up and give yourself a chance. Some people, however, try to suck it all up. And they may think they are doing something that's well, and I don't challenge what people think necessarily. I mean, I'm not the end all, I don't know all. But I do know this. I know that we're all God's children on this earth. Amen. And we have a responsibility to each other. And that is to, and I'm not going to put the Bible on you, but I bet you I got a room full of believers in here, and that you understand where I'm coming from. The question is, do we put that in practice? How often do we put it in practice? How focused are we on putting it in practice? So I want to give you a little bit of background on me. You giving me more than 10 minutes?
You talk as long as you want, Jared.
I'm not gonna punish you. Don't worry, I won't punish you like that. In fact, I have some prepared words here, and wow, I came in and I haven't looked at that paper once, because I'm looking out here and I'm seeing people I see in Jefferson County, where I'm from. So I'm from Louisville, you know that. In Louisville, I represent the 33rd Senatorial District. The 33rd Senatorial District takes in, wait a minute, who's been to Louisville here? Yes. You know where Shively is?
Lively Shively.
You know where Pleasure Ridge Park is? All the way to the Bullet Line, you come back all the way around west, swing right around to downtown Louisville. You've been there, I'm sure. Bourbon tasting along the way. All the way east. It's a very diverse district. And I have to tell you, people from everywhere come to that district. And I try to be present so I can meet them, but I was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky. I want you to know a little bit about me. I married a woman from Glens Fork, Kentucky. Who knows about Glens Fork? Glens Fork, you probably would have shook your head too, like I did when I first went there. What's this? It's about 7 miles from Columbia, Kentucky. You know where that is? Right. And I learned, in fact, I have to tell you, I thought I knew what I was doing in relationship to other people until I met my wife. Because I was arrogant about stepping into her world. Who are these country people? You know, I'm a city boy. I've traveled around. I've gone to schools. I've done this, that, and the other. And I had one of the most humble experiences I've had in my life when I met those folks who, in plain terms and in righteous terms, when I mean they were themselves, taught me lessons of life. Let me put it this way, reaffirm lessons of life for me about who I am, what I am, and what's important in this life. And it goes back to that original thing, that people want the same thing. And that's what's guided me in my early life, been reaffirmed in my later life, and that's what I've been doing. And that's why I'm in the political arena. Some people think that quote unquote politicians are not to be trusted. Well, I would say that navigating the world is a very difficult process. I mean, we're right now in a very difficult circumstance ourselves right now. So I'm gonna say some things here that you may embrace and you may not embrace, but I'm gonna say them. I came here to talk with you. I came in here to reach out, and I hope that when I leave here, I've made at least 2 or 3 friends. I trust there's gonna be much more. So let me tell you a little bit about my background. I was raised, as I said, in Louisville, Kentucky, and I was raised in a family that supported unions. You hear me? Yes. I was raised in the heart of it. Now imagine this, my father in the late 40s and the early 50s was a union leader. A union, in fact, he was the vice president of a union, but he was the leader, actually, of the FE. Anybody aware of the FE? Well, don't ask me what it's about. But my point is that it was a union that shut down International Harvester back in its heyday when it was disregarding workers' rights. So what you're looking at here is not, I'm not trapped by unionism, although maybe I am, because the very principles of unionism is what drives me, and that is that people who work, I'm looking around this room, this is a room of working people, I know that people who work are to have fair wages, they are to have fairness, they are to be treated decently on their jobs, they are to work with dignity, they need to have a capacity to lay the foundation for their offsprings to live a better life than what they're living. Now that's not foreign to anybody, whether you're union or not. But the difference is, when you talk about a union, is that they organize. They get specific about what they're trying to achieve. They take steps toward achieving those objectives. Well, why is that? Only thing you have to do is look at the history, the working people's history in this country and around the world, for that matter. And it makes sense, because if you're going to have those things and people are pushing back, I'm talking about the big dollar pieces that are out there, then you can sit around and just think about that, you can talk about that, but if you don't act on it, you will not be able to defend those principles. So I make no excuse about how I was raised, what my philosophical foundings are, the things that have guided me in terms of what I spend my time doing, whether it is as a community person, whether it is someone that's socializing with my neighbors, whether I'm doing leadership, whether I'm providing services as an attorney, or whatever I do. Now, I'm imperfect, don't get me wrong. I'm not standing up here to suggest to you that I'm the one. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about a principle, and I'm here to share that I think everybody in this room embraces. Now, what we do in the United States of America is that we organized a system. We call it a democratic republic. And guess what? That's a difficult thing. Don't let me go back into history and how we got to here. I mean, it's a miracle to form a democratic republic, a democracy that is young. It's young, still here, still punching, still trying to reach its highest ideal. In fact, it makes reference to a more perfect union. It does not suggest that it's perfect. What it does suggest, though, is that you must make it so. You must be engaged in that journey to make it so. But I'm here to tell you today that we're in a tough situation, from my perspective. And I'm going to describe it in the terms that I see it from where I operate in the legislature. When I look at the legislature, I recognize my responsibility. I am a Democrat. I make no bones about it. That doesn't mean I'm mad at a Republican. I want you to get this straight. I'm not mad at anything except bad policies. I'm happy about good policies. But I'm not naive, because I know the way this system is set up is that you have people who have other priorities, and they may militate against where you're coming from. And I've already laid that out generally, correct? So you must not be naive in this situation, because if you are, then you may find those things that you hold dear are not achievable, or they're compromised as you go forward. So organizing to get to those ends is important. And that's why when I think about why I'm here today in Ashland, Kentucky, and went through 3 or 4 traffic slowdowns, I apologize for being late, that's what that's about. Didn't anticipate that. That I recognize that when I come and talk with the Boyd County Democratic Party, I got the press on. So what am I saying? I'm gonna draw a picture of a larger arrangement of what's going on now, which you probably know, but I'm gonna say it anyway. You know, part of what we have here is not just what happens in your or my community within the Commonwealth. It's really tied into what happens into the world. It ties into what decisions leaders make. It ties into who it benefits in terms of that leadership and that decision making. It ties into the policies that we adopt and how they impact, benefit, and or take away from our prospects. So I'm gonna put this in a broader context. This is where we are as Gerald Neal sees it. Now, you don't want me to be shy, right?
Not at all.
Trump gives me trouble. He doesn't give me trouble because of the way he talks. We know he's disrespectful. He doesn't give me trouble because he thinks a lot of himself. That doesn't bother me. My dad used to tell me, son, you can only go as far as your ego will carry you. The challenge is knowing how to manage it. So he has a management problem. That was for a laugh. I guess all of us from time to time have that. But this man represents something more than this man. And I think that's what we have to understand. From my perspective, the world is reorganizing in terms of what influences are going to make the policies that govern our lives ultimately. What do I mean by that? What I mean is when you see Russia and China and the United States doing their thing as if they're enemies, etc., and they are positioning for how they see the world, and they're positioning and what influence they're going to have or what they seek. But the reality is they're playing a game up there on their own. They're playing their game as who's going to be the major powers in the world and how they're going to float around. There are all kinds of subsets of individuals that are in this process. But what I want to tell you is that a lot of that arrangement also impacts what we do in this country and who the chief operator, the President of the United States, forms and effectuates his policies. So where am I coming from? Where I'm coming from is that in the world, those with the power are lining up their prospects to maintain and sustain that power. Does that make sense? That makes sense. I understand that. I can't run OPEC. I can't run Russia. Never been there. I can't run China. Been there a bunch of times. There are other places. That's not my job. I don't do that. I'm in the state Senate. That's where my job is. But it affects me, what they're doing. So Trump is playing in that game. But what disturbs me is that in doing that and playing that game, the decisions that I see being made are compromising Kentucky and other places in a very selective and intentional way. So when they talk about that big bill, he refers to it as a beautiful bill. If you look at that, you understand that that's policy that's benefiting a class of individuals that is not designed to shift power or influence to folks like you and me. Now, you may not believe what I'm saying. I'm telling you what Gerald Neal thinks. So what does that mean? Well, in my world, what that means, and perhaps yours, what that means is that what they do in Washington is not designed to take care of folks in Kentucky, and this is a red state. Did you hear what I said? This is a red state. What am I talking about? There's a shift in wealth, and that wealth is shifted toward, they refer to it as the 1%. I bet you in Ashland, and what I've picked up about Ashland is that you have some concerns economically. How major corporations are making decisions, making promises, not following through on promises. Other corporations that bring jobs have left. You're concerned about that, and you should be. The question is, what are you going to do about it? The question is, what can you do about it? So what I'm saying to you is this. I'm saying that what's happening now, just this cycle, is not intended to help folks like you and me. It's not. And if anyone believes that it is, do your research, not the ideological stuff. Do your research and answer that. Now, in that context, this president and some under him play the game of division. What am I talking about? What I'm saying is they talk about immigrants and how we must drive them out, basically. They disregard what I would consider to be human decency in the process. I don't have to go into that discussion. You've seen it before your own eyes. As if, now think about this, as if those individuals were the problem. Anybody who buys that does not have their thinking cap on. I'm sorry. The fact of the matter is, if you look at the way the economy runs, right now in this part of history, we lose part of our power and capacity to produce by adopting the processes that this president is talking about. I would say that that's working against us and our interests. What else do we have? We have individuals that are out there saying that your next door neighbor, a red or a blue state. Now think about that for a minute. This is the United States of America. Why would a leader espouse turning policies in such a way that benefits some Americans over other Americans? Let me suggest to you that that's not what making a more perfect union is about. This is the United States of America, and we have our problems. But the fact of the matter is that it's going to take us to ensure an appropriate outcome. Why am I saying this? It's because I'm saying it's going to take us. It's going to take the Boyd County Democratic Party. It's going to take the Jefferson County Democratic Party. And guess what? I'm going to include my friends from the Republican Party in this. Because we need to find ways to work together, but we must not be naive, is what I'm saying. We should be adopting policies that help people, that do those things I was talking about before. What uplifts people? What strengthens community? What strengthens family? Taking care of our weak and infirm. Making sure that people are living a life of dignity. Making sure that we provide those health services that people need. We're not all prepared to meet the challenges. In fact, there are challenges going on in our bodies right now we don't even understand and know. But they're going to come out and they're going to visit us at some point. Having a strong educational system preparing our youth. How can you think about the future and not think about preparing our youth educationally to compete in the world? It's all tied together. I'm telling you, not only compete with the world, but how do we put ourselves in a position to not fund adequately and make sure that our youth are ready to carry on, particularly when we're not able to carry on, because life moves on, does it not? But if they're unprepared, what does that mean to you? What does that mean to yours? What does that mean to Ashland? What does that mean to the Commonwealth? What does that mean to the United States of America? There must be leadership that prioritizes education on every level. I don't think we're getting that now. We don't pay our teachers enough. We don't give them the support that they need and they deserve. Are any teachers in this room? Let's give the teachers an applause. I have yet to run into a teacher that has not sacrificed. It's like a mission. It's not just, hey, I got a job. I have not run into that teacher. I'm sure there's one or two or three out there. But these are very special people. They are devoted. They are dedicated. And they work, in some instances, in very challenging circumstances, yet they go back day after day to do that. They should be paid to do their job. They live lives themselves. They live families themselves. They're part of the community that we're talking about. They should be held high and respected for what they do. And I always say, if you pay them enough, then you can demand all you want. But we don't pay them enough. We know we don't. If we go into the health field, which I got into part of, what are we doing there? In fact, let me just skip over that a little bit. Let's go to housing. Are you aware that housing is a crisis? Very aware. In Kentucky? Yes. Now, do you consider yourself urban or rural? Well, guess what? There's a crisis, urban and rural. Because we have aging facilities in rural areas. We have aging facilities and short of facilities in urban areas. We have deteriorating infrastructure across both of those areas that have to be financed. And yet people say, oh, that's just a house, a roof over your head. But you know, a house is more than a home. A house is the connection to your economy. It's the connection to your job. It's talking about access. It's also talking about health. If you don't live in a healthy situation, and I'm not just talking about physical health, I'm talking about mental health even. If every day you get it up and trying to figure out where you're gonna be, and there's no support out there, there's nothing that builds you back into the economy or builds you back into society in a way that you're contributing in a very powerful and positive way, what have we done? Do we just withdraw and say, well, that person doesn't want to work? Wow, that's easy. I'm talking about the hard stuff. I'm talking about what happens when you're building a community, sustaining a community, you're strengthening a community, and what it takes. And it takes organizing with purpose. And it goes all the way back to what I started with. So I don't want to over talk, but I have a couple more things to say. I am reaching out across Kentucky. It's not going to stop at Ashland. Last week, I was in Richmond. The week before that, I was in Bowling Green. Next week, I'm going to be in Paducah. I didn't ask somebody else to do this. That's not the truth. I asked other people to do it too. But what I'm trying to do is demonstrate that I'm willing to do it so I can tell someone, you need to do this too. We need to connect. not just here in Ashland. Yes, connect in Ashland. Organize. Connect with those who know organization. Like I told you, I'm a union guy. But guess what? We have to organize and get outcomes that we want. If you want something to happen, you have to make it happen. If you want something to prevail, you can't just talk. I'm not talking about you. You're organizing. I'm talking about those beyond you, those people who you touch and affect. They need to be brought in. They should not be shunned. They should not be pushed away, even if they don't agree with what you're saying. It's okay to have debate. It's okay to talk about those things that are unpleasant. Mix few pleasant things in there as well. But more than anything, it is crucial that we move and think as a community, not just Ashland, but across the Commonwealth. I would argue across the United States of America. So we must embrace those who are holding these things to be self-evident. Yes, I continue to raise our unions. I particularly am excited about the steel workers. I gotta say that. If I don't mention your union, when I say steel workers, I'm talking about you too. We're delighted to have brought in Gary Clemens. I don't know if you guys know Gary Clemens, but he's now part of our team in the Senate. We worked hard with the unions on that. He's now part of us. When he came in there, his first opportunity, what did he do? He filed a bill to repeal the right to work law. Think about it. I didn't file that bill, Gary Clemens did. And I'm up here beating my chest about unions, right? But he walked right straight through that door. He didn't come to me and ask me, here's what I'm gonna file. I'm looking up on this thing and I said, whoa. You hear what I'm talking about? He's filed bills that deal with fair wages. He's filed several bills and got up on the floor of the Senate. I didn't get up on the floor and do that. I'm on the floor all the time talking. But he brought who he is and what he is on day one, acting on what he believes and what he thinks is important. So we're delighted to have Gary Clemens. We're delighted to have a Rocky Atkins who will not hold his tongue anywhere. He's gonna say what he's gotta say, publicly or privately. And he knows how to move too, I have to give you that. He knows what he's doing. And then my friend Chad Conley. I don't know if you guys know Chad Conley. You know Chad? Chad is one of the reasons I'm here. Connecting with some of these individuals, this is what connecting does. Sharing information. And here I am now in Ashland. So I consider him a friend. We talk extensively. He's educated me on multiple levels. In fact, all those individuals I talked about are educating me as I go. So I'm not gonna bore you any further. Did I say that? I'm not going to belabor the point any further. I'm gonna say this. First, I'm delighted to be here. Second, I'm here to connect with you. So I'm gonna bug you a little bit. Third, I'm asking you to work with me to connect across the Commonwealth of Kentucky, not just in Ashland, do it in Ashland, but those who are willing and ready, I'm asking you to connect with me and I'll be looking for you. And we're gonna change this landscape. We're not just gonna talk about it, we're gonna make it happen. If it doesn't happen in our time frame, we're gonna lay the foundation for it to happen in future time frames. Because we're not selfish about this, because this is about all of us. So ladies and gentlemen, I wanna thank you for your attention. You're a great audience. You ought to see some of my audiences. I wanna thank you for your attention. I feel at home here. I'm gonna have to get back on the road, but I wanna meet a few of you if I can. I don't know if they have time to do that. You're in the middle of a meeting. I'll honor that and respect that. But I do wanna come back. And I'm gonna gauge whether we're connected or not by whether I'm invited back or not. So God bless you. Keep up the work. Keep organizing. Keep fighting. Don't let anything stop you. Don't let anything separate you. That's right. Stand up for yourself. Stand up for me. Stand up for democracy. And stand up for what we can do together. But we can make anything happen. If we decide that's what we want to do. God bless you all.
What do you think, folks? Gerald, welcome back anytime.